give a donation.
No charge for the nap, Zevi.
Okay. On that note, let's go. We don't have to. It's a humbling daf. These next.
What happens when we start the daf now, Zev? What happens if you do fall asleep? Then what?
I don't know. Come wake me up.
Listen, okay. Anyways, these next dafim are, and like we said, if these people are taka ripping us off, then they'll pay for it in the next world. And these dafim are a reminder of where we're all headed to. How's that for heavy Muslim, right? Everybody's headed to this, and as much as we want to deny it, but this is whatever. This is what happens to bodies after they die. That's basically we're going to be dealing with for another week about the Tum and Tara, right? So, okay, so we said yesterday's Mishnah that we're going through all the different types of ways that a Nazir, if he becomes Tameh, to a Tameh Mace, and all different variations of Tameh Mace, so then he has to start over the Naziris again. So what we said, also tonight's daf, I have to remember, somebody has to remind me to do the Hakdama of what the daf is about. So tonight's daf is first, it's going to describe this decaying of the dead bodies, of exactly which decay becomes Tameh, which decay doesn't become Tameh. And then on Amud Beis, it discusses the mixtures of regular Tum and Tara having nothing to do with Tameh Mace. It discusses the mixtures of, meaning when you pour Tameh into, if you pour something tar into something Tameh, so when exactly does it become Tameh, when does it not? And then we go back to exactly how much decay of a mace, how big does it have to be in order to make something Tameh? Okay, so let's see. So one of the things that we said was al kizayis mace, al kizayis nutzel. A kizayis of a mace, if a nazir touches it, or goes under an oil, or a kizayis of nutzel. So ezo nutzel, go around the two dots, nun amud aleph. Right, so what is nutzel exactly? So the Gemara says, basar hameis shekorash. What it is meat. I don't know, literally means meat, but it means flesh, which I think we said last night is not the skin. It's, I don't know, Gershon had a way of describing it, right? But it's basar hameis shekorash, meaning it got liquidy and then it recongealed, right? Umayel sher siach, and mayel is liquids that came out. Oh, I just said Gershon, and he pops on, right? Umayel sher siach, and liquids that boil, meaning the way the Rush and the way Tyson says it is that if you're not sure, you see these liquids around the mace, around the dead body, right? And you're not sure whether that liquid came from the dead body or it's something else. So what you do is you boil it. And if it boils, then you know that it's from the mace, right? If it doesn't boil, or bubble, right, then it's not from the mace. Okay, so that's what we're saying, is that this nutzel is congealed fats or flesh from the body. So the Gemara says, hey, what's the case? If we don't know if it comes from the human, so kikorash havi. So even if it congealed, who cares, right? You have no idea whether this thing came from the mace, right? Meaning, let's say a guy, the shomer of the mace, was sitting and eating picha, right? Was eating picha next to the mace. I don't mean to be disgusting, whatever it is, but then a piece of the picha falls on the floor. So you have no idea if that is that picha or is that flesh from the mace. So if you don't know, so how can you say that it's going to make him tameh, right? It's a suffix. Ella, so it must be the yadina didei. We know that this flesh comes from the dead body, and afagav. So then we say afagav the loy karash. So then it's going to be tameh even if it doesn't congeal. Meaning what exactly is going on here? If it's a suffix, whether it came from the body, so we're going to be makel. If we know it came from the body, so what's the difference if it congealed or didn't congeal? So Rabbi Yirmiyah is stam. So we're saying when it's stam, right, and we don't know whether it's a regular bodily fluid or whether it's not selsi karash mayalhu. So if it congeals, then we know for sure that it came from the body. Loy karash, but if it didn't congeal, maybe it's just saliva or mucus, which saliva and mucus on the dead body does not make tumah. Right? So what the Gemara is basically saying is that it doesn't mean for sure that this nutzel has to become congealed, right? It just said that that's a way of trying to ascertain whether it's taka from the body or not, right? Okay, so that's basically what this nut. Basically, so what to come out with is this nutzel is some sort of congealed stuff that comes out of the dead body. Fine. So Bamine Abai Mirabba. Abai asked the kasha from Rabba, a shaila from Rabba. Yesh nutzel behema, yesh nutzel behema. How about a behema? Tumas behema. Now a behema has tumah. We know that animals are not matam, right? We said this already before. That said in yesterday's daf or 2 days ago's daf that you can touch a nazir could touch a dead animal, right? But there's a tumah from nevela, right? A nevela becomes tummy. An animal that was not shechted properly becomes tummy, right? So do we have the same way that a human could have parts of the human, the flesh, or whatever that comes off the body, the decay that comes off the body is matama. So what about a nevela who is the flesh of the nevela? Is that matama or not? Mi amrina, do we say gemiri that we have Allah nutzel da asame adam, that nutzel, which is this what we said, this congealed stuff that comes from a person, that's matama. Avol da asimi behema loy, but maybe stuff that comes from behema is not matama. Or do we say that there's no difference, right? And just like a human has this nutzel stuff that could be matama, so too, if there's some sort of decay or congealed flesh that comes off an animal, would also be matama. Again, an animal, we're not talking about a tumah from an animal of tumas mace. That we know the animal doesn't have. We're talking about tumas nevela. So that's the shaila. Again, a human has this nutzel stuff and this rekev stuff, and that's matama. That's matama like tome mace. What about an animal that a nevela that wasn't shechted properly can make things tome? So does that also have this thing about congealed fats or not? So when it says honey tuma chamura ad lager, tuma chamura is until it's fitting for a ger. Meaning, because the pasuk says that what do you do with a nevela? You give it to the ger toishav, right? Which means a ger who's not really a yid, but he's like a quasi yid, but he's not really Jewish. So therefore, you give him the nevela. So there's a shita that says that a tumah chamura is it's only tameh until it's right to give to a ger. Meaning, again, we have this animal that was shechted, and then they realized that the shechita was no good. So therefore, it's a nevela. It gives off tumah. It only gives off its tumah to the point where the meat is edible. Once the meat becomes not edible to the ger, then it no longer gives off its tumah. Right? So the Gemara is saying, so this shaila of whether the junk that comes out of the animal has the same status as the animal itself to give off tumah, the same way a human has it, is only works according to the shita that says that you have the chamura tumah, meaning the nevela tumah, is until it's fitting to a ger. The tumah kala ad lakela, and tumah kala, like the weak tumah, is until it's right for a kela. What weak tumah is that food can become tummy, right? It can't give off tumah, but food can become tummy. So it's called a tumah kala. So food can become tummy as long as it's right for a dog, not right for a human, but for a dog. So shen shaper, it makes sense. Tumah chamura ad lekelev. Tumah chamura stays until it's no longer fitting for a dog, which means it's really not fit to eat. Michael and Maymar, what are you going to say with this question? Right? The animal's giving off tumah, as long as it's right to be eaten by a dog, it's giving off tumah, right? So any fats that are congealed, not congealed, etc., that we're talking about by the human, certainly by the dog, certainly by an animal is going to be right to a dog. So what's your shaila?
What's Tuma Chamura Ad Lager? Well, what does that mean?
Tuma chamura means tumas nevela. Is the animal gives off the tuma only as long as it's fit for human consumption. Once it's no longer fit for human consumption, it doesn't give off tuma. Right?
What?
It doesn't give off tuma. Tumas nevela gives off tuma. It gives off a tuma. But according to
What do you mean? An animal that's dead is Tuma? Is Matama?
yeah, if it's yes, an nevela, yes, not tumas mace. Just it's good. It can make other things tummy.
What kind of Tuma? What kind
Tama
of,
b'veisablia, no?
No, that's birds.
That's birds.
It's mitame b'mago b'maso. What do you mean?
Yeah,
b'maga. Yeah.
but it's not tumas mace. It's not tumas mace.
Correct.
Meaning a nazir can touch it. It's just going to become tummy, but it's not going to be
Well,
tumas mace.
so why is it
That's
relevant?
tumah chapura. What?
I don't see. It's good according to Madam holds Tuma Chamura, Tuma Nevela, Ad Lager. What does that mean?
Tumas meaning tuma nevela. It only gives off a tuma as long as it's fitting to be given to a ger. Once it's no longer fitting to be given to a ger, it will no longer give off tuma.
A ger toishav, a ger.
Ger toishav, not a yid. You can't give a nevela to a yid,
Right. Okay.
right? So
The Tuma Lekala, the Kelev means.
tuma kala, just stam. Every food becomes tummy, so it can only become tummy when it has the status of a food. Right, so that's what it means. But the point of the Gemara's question is, what are you talking about? Whether the fatty piece that comes off the nutzel or the natzel, however you pronounce it, comes off the dead animal, according to the shita that says that as long as it's edible to dogs, it's still going to give off tumah. So of course it's going to give off tumah, right? That's what the Gemara is getting at. So the Gemara answers Tashim. So the Gemara says Tashima himchu ba'ar tamei. If they melted the flesh in fire, it's going to become tamei. Bechama tar, but if it melted in the sun, then it's tar. Why? Because in the fire, the fats that get heated up in the fire don't get ruined, but in the sun it does get ruined. So since it gets ruined, it's tar. And if you think that it gives off tum until it's possible kelev, if you chamanami, even if it was heated up in the sun, it should give off tum because the dog will eat meat or flesh that got heated up in the sun, right? So we see that must be that this whole netzel business doesn't have anything to do with nevela, right? Because it's always going to give off tumah. So Gemara says, "Amos memachila." When does it get melted? Basar do a suach b'chama. Once it gets decayed in the sun. That's when it melts. Kima da'asr chavalei ofar. But once it decays, then it's like dirt, and then even a dog won't eat it, right? So, meaning we're going to say that even if you're going to say that there's this nutzel business, still the animal is going to become tahar because it's not even going to be fit for a kelev. It's not going to be right for kelev, so therefore there's no nutzel here. All right, it's a little interesting and difficult to figure out exactly what stages these fats are considered not tahar or not, but I mean, there's obvious. I mean, the thing to take out here, three weeks and change before Pesach, is you see that there's a major difference between something that's not roy for a human and not roy for a kelev. Something that's not roy for a human is a much higher level than something that's not roy for a kelev. Normally, for the entire year, if a food becomes not roy for human consumption, then it's not also to eat it. For Pesach, we say that it's not roy for a kelev, which means that it's a lot stricter, right? And the reason for that is because of the chumrah of Pesach, because of karas and loy b'dili and shemineh. So therefore, we hold that something that is roy for a human is roy for dogs, but not roy for humans, you still can't have that in your possession on Pesach, right? Meaning, something that's not roy for humans all year round for all other Isurim is considered perfectly fine to eat, right? For Pesach, it's not roy for dogs, which is a lot worse. That's a lot worse, right? So you see that's a similar thing that the Gemara is saying over here. Fine. Next, yeah.
Is the second man the Omar, the Adle Kelev, Tumchamur Adle Kelev? Is he Machmir and Pogum?
Is he Machmer and Pogum?
That's where we learned Tom Pogum from the Lager.
I don't know. I'm not sure. You're going to say that that's Pogum? I don't know. Because he's learning it from there. I hear. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. The next Gemara also comes up a lot in Halacha, right? Which is basically if I have this here, apple juice, right? That's Tameh. And now I take some seltzer and I pour it into the apple juice. So obviously, with the seltzer that gets poured into the apple juice becomes Tameh. But what happens if I stop pouring? Now, the question is, did this Tumah connect itself up into the cup and make what's in the cup Tameh also? Right? And that would work with something called Nitzuk is Chibur. Right?
Did we have this? Did we have this Lagabe something else? The idea that it has to be a steady stream or something?
Yeah, we had it before. I don't remember where we had it before, but we did have the case. We had Nitzuk Chibur before.
I need that.
We also had it with washing the Tilas Yadayim, why you can't use a bottle.
Yeah, but no, but we had it in the Daf. We had it in the Daf. I don't remember what was it, Negeya.
Didn't we have it connected to Nida? It was indirect in the Daf.
I don't know. I don't remember. But either way, so that's what we're saying, pouring from one to the other. So do we say Nitzuk Chibur or not? So we'll get to the practical case of this. There's a couple of practical cases, but basically Gemara differentiates between how the stuff gets poured. So Tanan, Kol Nitzuk tar, anything that gets poured is tar, meaning, using the case we just said, you have the apple juice here that's Tameh, you have the seltzer that's tar, you pour it in, then you stop pouring. What's left in the cup is going to be, it's going to be tar, except dvash hazifim vatspichis, except for this type of zifim dvash and tzapichis, which are very thick, right? So since they're very thick, so if you ever notice when you take something and you pour it and it's thick, so even though some of the honey will already be poured out of the cup, when you stop pouring, some of the honey almost like reverses gravity, right? It almost reverses gravity and it goes back into the cup, right? So I'm sure anybody's poured something thick like that and seen that. And when you pour it, it starts leaving the cup. And then when you strain the cup back up, it like almost comes back with it. Okay, I don't know exactly why how the science of that works with the surface tension and all that type of stuff, but that's what it does. So therefore, since it does that, therefore we say that there was a connection between the tumah that was in the cup on the bottom cup, and therefore it connects its tumah up to the top cup. Right? You hear the difference between when it's stama liquid, so whatever comes out of the cup becomes tameh, but whatever's left in the cup never had a connection. But with this honey and stuff that's thick, since once it leaves the cup, it could come back into the cup. So therefore, it's considered a connection, right? So again, Tanan kol nitzuk tar, all pouring is tar, chutz mitvash azifim vatspichis, except for those thick things. Since when you pour them and you stop pouring, they come back up. B'shama yomrim on top of base now. B'shama yomrim afamak v'shel grisin v'shel pull, even some sort of food, right? That's meaning it's mikveh is like how do you say it? It's crushed. It's like crushed food. What is it? Archko says porridge, right? So like a oatmeal type thing. Ava mikveh, but it's not so thick. Ava mikveh shall grisen v'shall pull, made out of beans. Even that is going to be connected. Man, it's all going to become tamei. From the word yaseh ledes, because it goes back in. Meaning, when you take an oatmeal or a porridge and you pour it, it's also gonna, when you stop pouring it, it's gonna, some of the stuff that was already left the cup is gonna go back into the cup, right? So Beis Shammai says that even that type of stuff, yeah. So boy Rami Bar Chama, yesh. Okay, so that's what he's saying. So anything thin does not have nitzuk, and whatever's left in the cup is going to be tar, and anything that's poured into the cup is going to be, anything that's thicker is going to be, it's going to be tamei, because we're going to say nitzuk is chibur, right? So then boy Rami Bar Chama asked the shaila, yesh nitzuk la'oichlin, or ein nitzuk la'oichlin? Do we say that there's nitzuk to oichlin, meaning melted food, or not? Do we say that what's the reason why the honey and the tzapichis is considered like it's all connected, meaning what's in the top cup is connected to the bottom cup, is because of riri. Riri is sort of like strings that, like when you eat a pizza, so you pull out the pizza and sometimes the strings of the pizza, right, the cheese like becomes stringy. At least that's the way I understand riri, right? And the reason, so when you pour from this thick stuff from the top to the bottom, so then there's this riri coming out of it. Bahani less riri, but melted food that's not thick food does not have riri. So maybe it's not connected. Maybe it's because it's thick. And food that gets melted down is also smichin. So meaning, so basically we're asking is, why do we say that for thick foods there's a connection between the tumah on the bottom and the stuff that's in the top, and the top cup, even if it doesn't get mixed in, is going to be a problem. So is it because it's thick? In which case anything thick is going to say nitzuk chibur, and everything gets connected, and even the stuff in the top cup becomes tamei, even if it never actually mixed in with the bottom? Or do we say it's only something with riri, right? Which is like these strings. So Marava Tashma, Chelev Hameis Shu Shalom. If you have the Chelev of a mace that's in one piece, V'tichu, and it melted, Tamei, it stays Tamei. But let's say there were little pieces of fat, each one less than a kazayas, and then you melted them all together, that's still considered Torah, because even though they melted together, they're still considered separate entities. And if you say that there's no nitzuk to food, so even the full piece that gets melted down should become tar, because when it gets melted down, it's efshar that some of that fat is not going to run off to the sides and detach and make it less than a kazayas. So therefore, it must be that we say that there is nitzuk by we're going to say that there is nitzuk, right? So Amar Rab Zera, I know Amar Brei Ravina Targumina. No, me and Mar. Yeah.
What's the case of Tomei of Shalim V'Yetichu? We're talking about a mace, Adam or a behema?
Adam, I thought.
So right? We're talking about Tomei Ba'oil.
Why?
Or what? He touched it?
What? Either one.
What are we talking about?
Either one. What's the difference?
Well, when was he there? I mean, if he was there when it was whole, then he was already tummy.
No, let's say it came in. It was just the kazayas of the fats, having nothing to do with. He wasn't anywhere near the mace.
So then they melted, and he went and touched what? Less than a kazayas?
Yeah.
So why would he be tummy if he touched less than a kazayas?
No, it was a melted down of a kazayas. We're saying that he's
now,
still
is it a
tummy.
kazayis now or not?
Well, that's the question. It was a kazayis, and then it melted down. So we're thinking that if it melted down, some of it, like, either ran off.
So I don't understand. Whether there is nitzuk or not nitzuk, it shouldn't make a difference. Did he touch a kazayis of Caleb or not?
Right. So we're saying that when the fats get heated up, it has to be that some of it goes away. Right. But if you say it's still connected, so then, okay, it's still a kazayis, which is what the
I'm
Gemara
saying
seems
it's still
to say.
connected now. It was connected when it was poured.
No, we're talking about when you're melting fats now. Nothing to do with poured.
Yeah, but we're going the other direction. If it was tahir to tameh, then if the bottom, the bit that was poured out, touched something tameh, then the whole thing could become tameh because of nitzuk. Here, we want to be tahir the whole thing.
Yes, because when the fat when you took this kazayas of fat and you melted it, some of it ran off to the side.
Right.
Right. It's like when anytime you melt something, right? Not right. The glob dissipates a little bit. So if you say that nitzuk is, if you say nitzuk is chibur, so what if it ran off to the side? It's still all connected.
It's not mechuber right now. If it's connected, then it's connected. If it's not connected, it's not.
Correct.
How does nitzuk help over here? That's what I'm not understanding. If
Because
a dog decided to
if
eat,
if you say that there's no nitzuk, right? So you have the main glob of fat, and then you have some little runoff. That has nothing to do with this. It's a separate entity.
it's still connected. Just part of it's liquid, part of it's solid, and it's still connected.
Correct. Yes, that's the way I understand it. Yes. I don't know if it's solid. It's both liquid. Both liquid.
Is it physically connected or not?
Yes.
That's what I'm not getting. It is physically connected.
Yes. Otherwise, what's
the person touched the kazayas of Caleb?
It was melted down.
But that's the whole shiloh. Isn't that the whole shiloh? If something that's only connected by a stream, is that considered a real connection and all one item? If it's not considered one item, it's not. Then it never had.
No, but shiloh is the other way around. Can Tuma travel up, or can Isser travel up?
It's not a question of traveling up or not. It's a question of if there's a connection, is that considered something that they could go ahead and transfer Tuma with it? Just it's not really one item.
But to be matame something, to make something usr, not to make something mutter. To make something mutter is just a shiloh, whether you have the volume there or not. You have the volume. It was tame. Did I lose any volume or not? I didn't, because it's still touching it. So what's the shiloh?
That's the shiloh, but it's not the main thing. I understand, Gershon. When I take something that's tame here and I pour, isn't it all touching? It's all
Gershon, if it's separate, if at any point it's separate,
the new stuff was
Gershon, the second case in the Mishnah,
but if it's split
into pieces,
it's all connected,
it's not considered. Gershon, the second case in the Mishnah says how you mafurd. If you split it into pieces and then put it back together, it's not tummy anymore. It always has to remain one block. So if at any point this connection doesn't, it splits into pieces and then comes back together, it becomes tar because it didn't remain a blob the whole time. That's what the second case is saying. So if Nitza doesn't do anything, it's split, and therefore, when it comes back together as excised, it is tar, because at one point it's split into pieces. Because Nitza is not mechuber.
Yeah.
That's what the Mishnah says. The second case in the Mishnah.
Yes, when it became completely separated, there's a difference.
So if Nitza is not considered mechuber, it becomes separated, and then you're right back to tar. And even if it comes back together, it's still tar.
Well, when does it become separated from Tuma?
Because
it isn't separated.
Nitza is not mechuber.
It's one thing if I have two separate things, and I pour one into the other. You can have a shiloh. Did I connect it or not? If I have one thing,
okay, Gershon, look at the Toys Visag that I need to fly. Shalom v'tichu nami litar. Right. Okay. Either way, but I'm afraid we're losing the oilam here. So let me just finish this. Let's finish this and then.
Past tense, Yaakov. Past tense.
Yes, but anyway, Someone said,
Zab, we forgive you for falling asleep. You do have an excuse.
yeah. So Omar Rav Zera, Ano, Umar Breda Ravina Targimia Hochamaskin going to Bahadi the Mirsachle, when it got heated up, this part I can't say I understand. Salak Amuda the Nur Lapume Demana. What happened is that an amud of fire, right, a flame went up to the mouth of the utensil, the korash, and it got congealed over there. The Isei Kula Gabi Adadi, where everything is all together. The way I understand is, like sometimes, on the above your oven, so you have all that grime, right? That's people are busy with cleaning for Pesach. All that grime that went up to on top of there. So basically, the grime of the fats, the heat pushed it up to the top, right? And therefore, it became a solid kazayas, right? And Mamela, there was no runoff, which is what Gershon's having an issue with the runoff, right? Right? And because it's not melted, meaning if it would be melted, so we're going to say that it's considered disconnected if you hold nitzuk is not a chibur. But if it's not disconnected, then it's not an issue. It can mean if it's all congealed, then it's not an issue. Yeah, fine. So Amalei Ravina Ravashi Toshima Beishamai Oimrim Af Hamak V'Shel Grisen V'Shel Pul. Beishamai said even this porridge made out of beans, that's also nitzuk chibur, meaning if you pour it from one to the other, since it's thick, so then it's nitzuk chibur. Now my bnei shehein sold in lacharem because they go backwards. So the Gemara is thinking that Beishamai, whatever Beishamai is saying, the Tanakama would agree in concept to it. So you see, and the only machlokes in Beishamai and the Tanakama is which one is considered this part of this thickness. So you see that it must be that there is nitzuk chibur. So when it says midi area, who says hasam mishum desimchinon? There, the smichin, there it's because it's thick. Hacham mishum riri. Here by Beishamai, the reason why he says it still attaches itself is because of riri, because there's this what do we call riri? Because there's these strings that connect the two foods. So don't necessarily think that Beishamai and Tanakama are holding of each other. Okay, shine. So let's just do some practical on this. Basically, this whole concept of nitzuk chibur is when you have a goy. This is also Pesach. So you have a goy or a not from person that they pour wine. Let's go with a goy. A goy pours wine out of a bottle. So we know that it's yayin nesa because he poured the wine into a cup. So we're afraid that when he poured it l'shem avodah zarah, right? Why should the wine that's still in the bottle be no good? Right? Meaning
we learned this whole study,
Yeah. So what the reason is because of nitzuk chibur, right? The stuff that was in the cup that he poured is asur al yayin nesach, and that connects itself back up into the bottle, right? So there, by avodah zarah, we say nitzuk chibur. However, and this is an important point that people should know, when it's a not from Jew, Rabbi Avadia Yosef Paskins, we don't say nitzuk chibur. If it's we only say it by a goy, not by a not from Jew. So if a not from Jew pours not mavushal wine, let's say by the Seder, so yes, the stuff in his cup is no good. The stuff left in the bottle is still okay. Okay, because he says we only said it nitzuk chibur by the goy. Now another case of this, another practical case, and I get this almost daily. Somebody takes a coffee, right, with milk, and then adds more hot water to it under the urn. Now, the heat from the milk goes into the urn. Does that make the urn milchiks? Or somebody's taking cholent on Shabbos and needs to add hot water to the cholent. So now you take the cholent, put it under the urn, and you open the urn, and it goes into the cholent. So now there's two issues there. There's heat, and there's nitzuk chibur, right? Because the stream of the water from the urn is hitting the fleishik cholent, and then kicking back up into the urn. Right? So if you say it's all connected, you just made your urn either fleishiks or milchiks. Right? That lechatchila, you shouldn't do it. Lechatchila, you shouldn't do it. But the Eved is a very interesting, based on this parak of these and Mesechta Machshirin, based on this parak that we're talking about here, Chachmas Adam says that that's all if the top wasn't hot. But if the top was hot, then it's going to repel the taste. So therefore he says, b'di'evet, it's going to all remain parv.
Do we mamish passing like that?
Which way?
I'm saying, let's say you're making a hot cocoa underneath the urn.
You shouldn't.
That makes it milchiks?
No, because it is chachmas, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, there's many shittas that would hold yes. The Maisa, the Chachmas Adam says that this mission machshirin is talking about where the top is cold and the bottom is hot. But if the top was hot, that since it's hot, for whatever reason, it does not allow the tom to go into it. But yes, it's an issue. So somebody should not, ultimately, it's not going to be an issue because there's going to be dairy equipment or meat equipment. But ultimately, yes, somebody should not take their coffee.
So how do you let them get a coffee, let's say, in a hotel?
So we say again, b'di'evet, we say it's fine, it doesn't do it, but l'chatchila you shouldn't do it. L'chatchila you shouldn't do it.
Or to always use a cliche.
Whatever, but do it into a parv cup and then add it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. So those are the two practical things to come out with the yayin and the making the coffees. Fine. Then the Gemara finishes.
Isn't there a thousand hilchos nida?
Who?
Isn't there a thousand hilchos nida? It says something about Archakus. There's nitzuk.
Oh, if you pour.
Oh no, by Havdalah. From the oil. If he can hold the oil and she does whatever.
That's
the samim. The samim is al nitzuk, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, okay. I don't yeah, it was al nitzuk. I don't remember.
I think so.
I hear. Okay, Valmali Tarvid Rekev, and on a spoonful of Rekev, of decay, Vakamash Yura, how much is the spoonful? Saying a spoonful of Rekev. Rekev is like the decay, the dust that comes off the mace. So Chizki Amar Malay Pisas Yad, it's a palmful. V'yochanan Amar Malay Chafnav, it's a handful. Right? So it's either a palmful, like this much to fill up there, or it's Malay Chafnav is basically you take two fingers and you push down the what do you call it, the flour that the Kohen Gadol did, right? So Tanan, now the Kohen did, that's not the Kmitza. Tanan, Mole Tavar Rekev Sha'amru, so a full spoon that we said of this, Yeshnon Me'ikar Etzbois Sulamala. It's from the Etzbois where the Etzbois meet the hand and above. Right? That's how much it is. It's a handful. So Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, who Damakarabanan. So Rabbi Yochanan, he goes like
this.
I mean, that really is the Gemara's kasha. No one's there.
Is it the internet or battery?
His phone died.
Okay.
Sorry, my good iPad was left on the plane. If anybody missed that part, so I'm on a junky iPad that just died. Sorry.
Yaakov, maybe
when I get to Mitzi Matzah, Yaakov, there's an iPad in there. The Gavir is going to think it was like Mamash from the Brisker Matzahs.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe it's in the matzah box, Yaakov.
Undertag, I should check them. The guy still hasn't been in touch with me to pick him up.
I was going to wonder whether it's chametz because of the berekas or the iPad.
Yeah, I don't know which is worse for the guy.
Different chametz. That's a different chametz.
You say needs to buy an iPad.
Yeah.
How many times has that iPad forgotten on the plane already?
And you don't keep track of Tully?
You would have been there.
If I was with him, I would have been the one running back to the plane to get it.
Correct.
Well, you weren't, so I wouldn't be proud of that fact.
Right there.
Okay.
Yaakov doesn't need Find My iPhone. He has Lion.
There you go. Anyway, so
And Naftali has to Find My iPhone when it comes to Tzviako's stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can put in a thing, I lost the family, maybe they'll get it to you.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a small iPad. I didn't, whatever. Shine. But, anyways, so again, so we had this two shiurim here that in the Mishnah said it's either from the Ikar Etzba'is L'Lamayla and Chacham say Meloi Chafnov. So Bishlam so Rabbi Yochanan who said Meloi Chafnov, he'll go like the Rabbanon, right? Because Chacham say Meloi Chafnov, they say the same thing. Chizkiya Kiman, Chizkiya who said that it's the palm like Rameir or like Rabbanon. He's not like Rameir, he's not like the Rabbanon, right? Because Rameir didn't say the palm. The Rameir said from where the fingers reach and further. So who's he going like? So Amri Male pieces Yadu Male Kishrei Etzva'is of Lamala Chachiuru. That's one shear. So therefore, it's not it's the same shear. So therefore, it's not a kasha. So Amri Rav Shimi Bar Adel Rav Papa Mimai Dahai Mikishrei Etzva'is Lamala Leroish. Who says when it says that from where the fingers hit the palm, right? It goes that way. Dilma Lamata Mididei. Midiyade, I'm sorry. It goes lower, meaning it goes from here down, which is the Havale Mole pieces of yad, that's considered pieces of yad. So maybe that's what it is. So the Gemara says it ends off with teku, which Tosfos and the Gra both say this is not a place for teku, right? This wasn't a halachic shaila. This is just a shaila of how do you describe the fingers from the Kishrei Etzva'is and above? Do we say that it's the fingers? Do we say does it from here and up, or is it from here and down? So it's not a major shaila that requires a teku. So therefore, they say you shouldn't say the teku. Okay, so the bottom line is that we have a couple of different measurements over how much decay from the mace is going to be matama. Either it's the palm full or it's the fingers full, and that's it. All right. So have yourselves a fine night, and tomorrow again we'll be continuing with this wonderful dead body decaying, etc., etc. All right.
Dying to
So-
hear tomorrow's shir.
What?
I'm dying to hear tomorrow's shir.
Very good. Well, yes.
I'm still, Doc, you still try. It's amazing. Very good. A lot of stick-to-itiveness you have. Very good.
And put my finger on it, but there's something about this shir that really.
Yeah, it's very good. You keep on trying. It's good. You definitely get the participation award.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. I'm gonna try and chop the Ma'ariv now.
And get the nach.
Shikayach.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.